Whoo, y'all, I just came from a deep dive down in the rabbit hole and I found some interesting lore in Wonders of the First. Howdy, howdy, I'm American Texan, and I love talking about trading cards, specifically the game Wonders of the First. And if you don't know, Wonders of the First is a new game launched in 2025 from previous Magic lead designer Brian Tinsman. It's a fantasy sci-fi type game where you battle for stones across 7 realms. It's a wonderful game. I'm working on a video that will release very shortly on if you should play it Wonders of the First in 2026. If you are already playing, or if you've gotten your feet wet and you tried it maybe at an SCG or at your local game shop, one of the things you may notice is that there is some lore baked into the game. You have different factions across the orbitals. The orbitals are kind of like the colors of Magic. You've got Umberthine, which is like dark and almost death, vampire stuff. You got Petrai, which is like nature, Heliosynth, which is like desert, cyberpunk. There are lots of different orbitals. And today I want to look at the Thalwind orbital, which is all about sea and sky. Now, a little history lesson. After talking to several people across the conventions across 2025, I learned that Wonders of the First actually started as an art project back in the 20s, 2021, sometime around there. The beautiful thing is this art is beautiful and it's all minted on the NFT blockchain. Look, I'm a simple man. I barely know what all that means, but all that says the art was actually created before the game, or at the very least alongside the game. And so you have this catalog of beautiful art, and then you have this beautiful game that Brian Tinsman created, and you marry the two and you bring the art alongside the game, you add in some lore, and you have a fantastic game like Wonders of the First. The beauty of the internet is you can find almost anything on the internet. And so what I'm going to show with you today is actually look at OpenSea, which is a marketplace that lists all of the art for Wonders of the First, both cards that have been printed and art that has not been created yet. There are, I believe, 10,000 NFT tokens out there, and not all of them have been assigned art, but many of them have. And so out of 400 and let's say 50 cards, I think, that have come out so far with the game, there are still hundreds more of pieces of art that you can go and look. And the great thing is all of the art is already assigned its own orbital. It's already assigned its commonality, I guess, common, uncommon, rare, mythic, legend. It's already assigned its type, like is it a land or is it a wonder? Is it an item? And it already has a little bit of history along with the faction. So I'm going to share my screen and just be warned. First of all, everything I'm going off of here is hearsay. So obviously things can change. I could be wrong. By all means, please go and leave a comment down below to correct me if there's anything that I'm doing wrong. And nothing I'm sharing here is insider information. These are things that you can find online. Like I said, the marketplace is open to the public. Everything that I'll show you are cards that you can see online. So you can investigate this along with me, and you can see some of the other cards that we're not going to touch on today. All right, so starting off here in the Cardio website, this is the archive of all the cards in existence right now. And you'll notice that on some of the cards, you have some text up here in the top right of the card under the orbital. For example, Archimedes Falco, he is a Thalwind card, but there's also some text here. This is their faction. Archimedes Falco is a part of the faction Iron Plume Legion. Same thing with Ashenleaf. He is Petrai, he's a core card, and he's part of the faction Wild Rook Tribe. I hope I'm saying that correctly. So different cards have different factions. Not every card, but many of the cards have factions. Baron the Unstable is part of the Thieves Guild. Okay. Now, right now, that doesn't really have any particular use inside of play. I think it's more lore driven. However, they have not pushed to release much information on the lore of the factions. But what you can do is you can, inside of Cardio, which if you've never used this before, I'll have a link in the description to see how to use this platform. It's open and free to the public. I'm not even logged in. You can go to the filters here on the left, and I already have it just filtered by Wonders. And then you can go to the faction drop down and you can see all of the factions. So for example, Church of the First Form, this is like your cleric and nun, priestess, I don't know, factions here. So it's all Heliosynth, and you got High Inquisitor Epsilon Tolaris, and he is a Heliosynth legendary wonder, and you can see here he's part of the faction Church of the First Form. Same thing with Numinatrix Aurora Ignatara and Zeltona, the voice of the First. These are all factions of Church of the First Formed. What I'm going to show you here, though, that I thought was interesting is I noticed this little factoid here, and this is what caused me to do a deep dive. You've got Captain Isabella, Izzy Stormstrong, sleeper card for sure, and she's part of the faction Crimson Marauder. We've got a card in the deck or in the game called the Crimson Marauder, and that is obviously part of the Crimson Marauder. However, if you did not know, we also have another captain in the set. We have Captain Rostar. or Rostar. I don't know. People say it differently. And he's part of the faction Mechanicsburg Empire. So I always thought that maybe Captain Izzy and Captain Rostar or Rostar, how do you say it? Let me know in the comments. I thought they were maybe part of the same tribe or same faction, but they're not. So who is part of the Mechanicsburg Empire? Well, if I go back to the factions and we'll go to Mechanicsburg Empire. And look at this. Now, here's where it gets crazy. We've got two cards, Captain Rostar Corewind and Empress Aurelia. But wait a second. Empress Aurelia, she's part of the Mechanicsburg Empire, but she's a mermaid. She's part of the merfolk class, and she's an Empress Royal. So what is going on here? You've got Captain Rostar, and then you've got Empress Aurelia. So are they like together? Are they hooked up? But why is his Mechanicsburg Empire? That doesn't sound like a sea thing. What is this? What is this about? Well, bear with me here, okay? You by all means don't need to know everything about what I'm about to show you here when it comes to the art of the Wonders of the First and the character proofs and the NFTs. I barely know what I'm talking about, but you can actually go and look at all of the original arts for the game or for the Wonders of the First character proofs, and you can find more art and more characters that belong to this faction. So we're going to go to OpenSea, okay? And I very, very strongly encourage you, be very careful coming through here because there are some fakes. There are some spoof accounts that try to trick you into buying their stuff. You don't buy anything because you watch this video. I'm telling you right now, don't buy it. If you want to buy something, talk to people that are smarter than me. But you can go to Wonders of the First character proofs on OpenSea. This is the public market of all the art proofs of the set. And you'll notice here, if you play the game, the very first page, you see art that you've never seen before. It matches the theme of the set, right? It's that AI art, digital art style, fantasy, cyberpunkish, and there's a lot of things here. There are some things that you may notice. For example, here's Summon Crushing Rock. This is a card in existence. You also got Wretched Mirror of Requiem. You've got Glasswing Cockatrice, and then you have some cards that are just the card back. This means that the token is there, but the art has not been revealed or hasn't been assigned, however you want to look at it. So there are, like I said, there's about 10,000 of these, I believe, and just some of them haven't been unleashed or unveiled, okay? But the ones that have art have. Now, if I go and I search by item or traits, you can come and search for all kinds of things, but let's look for faction. You can see all the factions here. There's a Skywraith faction, Mixed faction, Death Marcher faction, obviously for Death Marcher Knight. Let's search for Mechanicsburg, and here you'll see a bunch of cards. However, look at this. You've got Empress Aurelia here at the top. You've got Captain Rostar there, but you've also got many others. What is it, 15? Okay, so a little over a dozen. Okay, so if I go to Empress Aurelia, who we already talked about, she has a card. She's in existence. That means that her art, that the company or organization or game, however you want to think about it, the art that they have, Brian created the Empress Aurelia card and they assigned this art to that card, okay? Mini games, you have to think about it. They start as just pieces of paper and printed ink, right? And then they assign the art later. Right, this is the same thing. They're just taking existing art on the blockchain and assigning it to that card. So we can see here the artist, Christopher Kish, met him in Vegas, amazing guy. Faction, Mechanicsburg Empire. She is a primary, right? So you can see that here on the card. She is a primary wonder. And she is Thalwind, right? We obviously see that on the card. She is Thalwind here. She's also core. She is not legendary. She is of the merfolk lineage, part of Thalwind, and she has the Orbital class Empress, okay? So we can see here Empress Royal, that's her class here. She's part of the Existence class, okay, and then Universal class is Royal. Now, you can ignore all the pricing stuff because we're not talking about trading or buying NFTs. We're not talking about that. But what we can do is we can go to About, and here we are. We can see a little bit of a factoid about Empress Aurelia. It says, Aurelia, Empress of Mechanicsburg, embodies grace as fluid as the sea, symbolizing harmonious coexistence between her merfolk heritage and the marvels of steampunk technology. Interesting. So now we see a little bit of Captain Rostar, maybe how she got connected with him inside the Mechanicsburg Empire. Look at her flavor text too. She pulls currents as a spider pulls strands. So maybe that's how she kind of got connected with the people on the boat. She's pulling the currents, she's pulling them towards him. Okay, so symbolizing harmonious coexistence between her merfolk heritage and the marvels of steampunk technology. She's almost like a bridge, almost maybe like an arranged marriage or something. I'm just going to look at the top here. You can see all the Mechanicsburg faction thumbnails here. I don't know if you can see it on the share screen, but let's go to Captain Rostar. Okay, so we got Captain Rostar Corewind by Ramel Smith. And then he's also part of the Mechanicsburg primary Thalwind, not legendary. Okay, so he's at the Orbital class airship and the Universal class captain, and we can see that here, airship captain. So this is how they come up with the different classes and lineages. Okay, and if we go to about, we can see he doesn't have as much in the about section. His infamy known wide, his sails bellow with untold tales. Okay, so not too much there in the way of about. Okay, but where it gets fun is when you start looking at these other art pieces here that has some about. So looking quickly at the art pieces here that we already have for the Mechanicsburg Empire, you've got Miss Vesper Virio. You've got Captain Star Fox. I think this one's already spoiled. Okay, I was incorrect. There was another Captain Cat that looked like it, Captain Nebula, hard to see here. This page no longer exists, so I can't pull up the high quality image. However, that's what the cat looks like. Anyways, going back, Captain Star Fox. Okay, so this is another one that is there. We'll look at him in a minute. Drake Thundercrown. Hello. Captain Rostar we looked at. Kalis Arion. This one looks interesting. Almost looks like a heliosynth, but we do see that it is part of the Thalwind orbital. Here's one that is very interesting. Mechanicsburg. Hello. Let's go ahead and stop here and look at this. This is by artist Ramel Smith. Look at that art there. I think that looks fantastic. There are higher quality images. Obviously, this is just the website preview. It is part of the class city. Let's see. So this is a land. There actually is a land named Mechanicsburg. Sounds like it should be legendary, but it's not. It's not going to be legendary. But if we go to About, let's take a look at About. A steampunk haven, Mechanicsburg is a living symphony of gears and innovation where brass and steam intermingle with the roar of engines and the hiss of pistons. All right, so that's interesting. It is a Thalwind. It is of air and sea. Going back to the Mechanicsburg Empire cards, we've got Rostar and Empress Aurelia. So this makes sense with Rostar here. You know, maybe he brings his ship through to Mechanicsburg. Very interesting there. But let's keep going. We got Dr. Magnus Coghart, Sunken City of Thundercrown, Anara Galeland. Mechanicsburg flight suit. That looks pretty cool. Let's take a look at this one because it says Mechanicsburg. It is an equipment. It is an item. Let's see what it's about. Gear up for the skies in a suit that's the pinnacle of aerial fashion. I'm kind of still interested in looking for how the mermaids or the merfolk come into this. We've got Eli Gold Gear, Sky Shroud Docks. Okay, so we've got some docks, Sky Shroud Docks, water. Let's see if there's anything here about that. Where airships cloak the sky and trade winds never cease. The Sky Shroud Docks. And here we go. I bet this is going to be the big one. Emperor Cerelius. So we've got Empress Aurelia. And now we've got Emperor Cerelius. Let's see here. Oh, we got a lot of about on Emperor Cerelius. Commands his domain with a regal authority as formidable as the ocean's currents. In the heart of Mechanicsburg, where the synergy of steampunk innovation and nautical splendor prevails, Emperor Cerelius stands as a beacon of strength and governance. This kind of makes it sound like in the heart of Mechanicsburg, where the synergy of steampunk innovation and nautical splendor prevails. It almost sounds like maybe he, let's go back to Mechanicsburg. Maybe his domain is towards the bottom a little bit. Oh, I can actually blow it up there. Look at that. Maybe he kind of is in the heart of Mechanicsburg and in the ocean down there below. Look at that. You actually got airship docking kind of already there on the sides of Mechanicsburg. Ooh, man, this is getting spicy. So that is Emperor Cerelius. And then the last one is, here we go. We got an airship. The Emperor's Will. I wonder whose ship this is. I think this obviously sounds like the Emperor's Starship. Imposing ship of the line and airship of the Mechanicsburg Empire, embodying the Emperor's might and authority, a floating fortress that dominates the sky. So this almost sounds like maybe Emperor Cerelius, Empress Aurelia kind of ride on that ship, but it's an airship, which then connects it to Mechanicsburg, the full empire. Sounds very interesting. So Captain Rostar is not married to Empress Aurelia because Captain Rostar's flavor text says they say love conquers all, or in my case, love of coin. So, you know, he is a pirate, I guess, on an airship that is connected to the Mechanicsburg Empire, or maybe the city of Mechanicsburg, that is ruled by Empress Aurelia and Emperor Cerelius. Let's take a look at some of these other captains here, or these other people here. We've got Miss Vesper Virio. Now, she is a legendary, And she is a socialite pirate. And in the about here, she is a daring high sky marauder with a royal flair, feared and respected in equal measure. So she's kind of got her own airship pirate something there. Going back to Captain Star Fox, he is part of the Mechanicsburg Empire. He's a rogue pilot, and his skills are as explosive as his namesake. So that is interesting there. Let's take a look here. Drake Thundercrown. His about here is he is destined ruler of the darkened skies, his lineage as stormy as the realm. And if we go to Kalis Arion, now this kind of looks like he is on, maybe on the beach of Mechanicsburg. So it looks kind of like he's down here maybe a little bit. Kalis Arion, he is not a legendary, but he is primary because he has a name. Most named wonders that are not legendary, I noticed, are primary. Visionary creator whose mechanical wonders soar above the clouds, challenging the limits of imagination. I'm trying to find some places maybe that can marry more of that merfolk theme here. Here we go. Sunken City of the Thunder Crown. This is another Thalwind land. It is not legendary. Let's look a little bit about here. An underwater metropolis echoing with the thunder of ancient royals. So that's interesting. So there's interesting that the sunken city, maybe that lives underneath the city here, underneath Mechanicsburg. I find that very interesting. Anara Galen's here, not a legendary. She is a primary, and she is protector of aerial realms, her vengeance unwavering. And so that's pretty cool. So I think she's obviously in Mechanicsburg Empire here. She's like living in that Mechanicsburg city because she's obviously not a ship there. I find the Mechanicsburg flight suit interesting. And then Eli Goldgear III. He is a socialite. Ooh, he's a noble. I love seeing more nobles. Something for loyal friend to go look for. He is the third Eli Goldgear, a noble of Mechanicsburg Empire stature, renowned for his engineering prowess and societal influence. So very interesting here. Man, he's got some... I mean, he barely even looks human, but he's part of a lineage there for sure. Interesting. And then I think the last one we haven't really talked about is the Sky Shroud docks, and that is where airships cloak the sky and trade winds never cease. So a little bit of a different view maybe of the, I don't know if the docks are the ground level docks for the airships above. So I don't know if the Sky Shroud docks or the ground view docks, and this is maybe like where the water boats can transfer over to the air boats, or if it's maybe the docks on the air side, maybe where the air side docks, air boats dock meet along for the water docks here. No, I always thought it was different that the Thalwind Orbital was both for sea and air, but it does kind of make sense. If you're out on the ocean, what do you have? You have sea and air. You don't have land, you don't have desert, you definitely don't have the dark swamps of the Umbrathine Orbital. Just super interesting. So there you have it. There's a brief look at the character art proofs that you can find within the Mechanicsburg Empire, of which inside the existence card set of Wonders of the First, Captain Rostar and Empress Aurelia are available too. Now, I did look at the Crimson Marauder faction, but they're still only Captain Izzy and the Crimson Marauder itself. I'd be interested what other factions that you'd like to see more of. Let me know down in the comments below, and you can investigate yourself on OpenSea and look at all of the factions, as well as the lineages and other orbital cards that you can see inside of the Wonders of the First character proofs. I hope this opened your eyes a little bit about what's available to see, but also just a little bit inside the lore within Wonders of the First. There is a lot more out there, and just what we see in existence is really just a drop in the bucket. If you like this video, click like if you want to see more about Wonders of the First or trading card content in general. Thank you all for watching. Your time and attention mean the world to me, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Adios.